Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can, spins a web any size.
Hello and welcome. As you can tell by the title, I'm the obsessed movie man, O.M.M, and as you can tell, I forgot my hat. But we're not here to talk about that. Haha, that rhymes. The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Let's talk about it. How does one describe The Amazing Spider-Man 2? I don't know, but I'm going to give it a shot. Andrew Garfield returns to play the snarky superhero Spider-Man, who struggles to maintain a relationship with Gwen Stacy, played by Emma Stone, battle criminals, and also discover what happened to his parents. Villains arrive in the forms of Electro, played by Jamie Foxx, Green Goblin, played by Daniel DeHaan, and very briefly, Rhino, played by Paul Giamatti. As you can already tell, this film seems to be suffering the same problems that troubled Spider-Man 3, which was the overuse of villains. However, that's not necessarily the case. While it certainly doesn't help cramming in all these characters, the main factor this movie suffers from is a lack of story. There is no clear journey or story. It's all plot points. At least Spider-Man 3 had a story, but don't let that fool you. I'm not saying that Spider-Man 3 is better than this. The word that comes to mind for this movie is mess. The film is a mess and probably could have used another draft. Why does Electro suddenly turn against Spider-Man even though he was a fan before? Why are we already pushing for a Green Goblin character even though we barely know anything about Harry? Why the hell is Rhino even in this movie? Why are we introducing Jameson but at the same time, we're not introducing Jameson? All of this needed to be fixed. There are some of my complaints, so let me give you some of my compliments. I think that Andrew Garfield proves once again why he is the superior Spider-Man to Tobey Maguire, which is mainly the fact that he's funny and inhibits the character. I think the relationship between Peter and Gwen works extraordinarily well, and I always look forward to seeing the two on screen together. The effects are very impressive, the music is decent, but what I really love are the character designs. I love that Spidey's suit is back to basics, and I love the new interpretations of Electro and Goblin. I'm not a big fan of Rhino's design, but 2 out of 3 isn't all that bad. I can't say that I hated this movie, but I do think the ball was dropped. It's possible that this was indeed studio interference again, since Sony is pushing for an upcoming Sinister Six movie, and if that's the case, Sony really needs to take things slower and keep it more basic. Don't rush to compete with the Avengers. Focus on giving us a movie and not an advertisement for a future big film. Try to make the Amazing Spider-Man series amazing again. 2.5 out of 5. So the film, it wasn't bad, it was just a big mess. Like I said before, the problem is there's no story, just events happen, but there's no clear story. Like, Peter's trying to find his parents, okay, but oh no, now Harry's back and he's trying to find a way to survive. Oh no, oh, and Gwen is now going to Oxford. And what else can we jam in there? Oh yeah, there's a big schizophrenic Spidey fan who gets electrical powers. There's just, things happen, but there's no story. I guess if I had to explain it to you, it's like Spidey basically, it's 2 years after the events of the first movie. Spider-Man is stopping pre-Rhino. He saves Max Dillon, played by Jamie Foxx, from the pre-Rhino, and Max Dillon becomes this big obsessed fan with Spider-Man. And this is like the same cliche you've seen in Batman Forever, The Incredibles, and more recently Iron Man 3, with the nerdy fan becoming villain. It's just like Riddler in Batman Forever, it's just like Syndrome in The Incredibles, and it's just like the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. Only this one takes it even further, where Jamie Foxx's character Max Dillon is like a schizophrenic, basically. Like, he's having conversations with Spider-Man just to himself. He has a little shrine dedicated to Spider-Man. He's like, "Oh, Spider-Man, you made me a birthday cake. Thank you very much for that." Like, he just has a birthday cake design because no one remembers his birthday or anything. And it's just really creepy. We always seem to have a schizophrenic character in the Spider-Man movies. Have you guys noticed that? It's almost every single movie we have a schizophrenic character. Peter is also conflicted to maintain a relationship with Gwen because of the deal that he made with Gwen's father before he died. Oops, spoilers. You should know this beforehand. Because the father was like, leave Gwen out of this, I know, just don't get her involved, and Peter is just conflicted whether or not he should continue a relationship with Gwen or not. Anyway, Max gets superpowers from Oscorp/Eels, whatever, and he becomes Electro, and he needs to feed on electricity or power to survive, and Spider-Man confronts him, and Spider-Man's trying to help him out, But all of a sudden, like, okay, let me back up a bit. When Electro is in Times Square, all these cameras are recording him, and he just wants to, I guess the whole thing about his character is he wants to be noticed, because he's so, like, in shock when all the cameras are on him. And so when Spider-Man arrives and all the cameras are on Spider-Man, that's when Electro gets mad. But I don't understand Electro's motivation, because all of a sudden he's like, you conspired against me. I'm like, what? Where did this come from? I know he has to turn villain, but I didn't understand what caused him to go against Spider-Man, because he's like a big fan of Spider-Man. And also in one of the scenes he's on the phone saying that the media should pay more attention to Spider-Man, and yet when the media do pay attention to Spider-Man, which is in the scene when in Times Square, he gets upset. One friend of mine just told me it's just him being paranoid, but I feel like he needs to have a bigger reason. It's just not made clear to the audience, in my opinion. We also have Daniel DeHaan as Harry Osborn, and I think he did a good job portraying. He did a great job with the character Daniel DeHaan. It's just that Harry is really unlikable in this movie. Again, I have nothing against the acting style of Daniel DeHaan. I think it was actually pretty okay. Like, the scenes with Peter Parker and Harry Osborn interacting with each other, those are really good. But he's just really unlikable. But I think that's the whole point of this version of Harry. It's hard to pick which one I prefer more, Daniel DeHaan or James Franco. I actually would probably say Daniel DeHaan. But, again, you're probably not going to like it. You're probably going to get annoyed with this Harry Osborn. He is just an ass. Okay, this is one of my other problems I had. Sony just wants to... I feel like Sony is just trying desperately to compete with the Avengers. With their own big... Because they have confirmed they're working on a Sinister Six movie. And if you don't know who the Sinister Six are, pause this video, look it up, then come back to this video. Anyway. So, just... And this... Not surprised, because you see all this in the trailers, we're like, hey, let's throw in, we need to get the Sinister Six movie right around. So let's introduce Electro. Okay, that's pretty good. Now let's throw in Rhino. Okay, you didn't really need to do that, but now let's throw in Green Goblin. What? Let's introduce Felicia Hardy, who becomes Black Cat. Wait, now let's put in the background Dr. Octopus's arms and Vulture's wings. And you don't really need. How about a little Venom reference somewhere? I think I did see a Venom reference, but Sony, seriously, stop. This is exactly what happened with Spider-Man 3. And I don't want to be one of the people who say that I hate Spider-Man 3, because I'm trying not to hate it that much. It's just, in my opinion, it's just a bad movie, but I don't hate it as much as I did in the past. That's kind of why I stopped. In the past, when I said that I was going to do a video called The Tangled Web of Spider-Man 3, that's kind of why I decided to pull the plug on that video. Because I just realized not to hate Spider-Man 3 anymore, but just accept it was just a bad movie. But Sony, I don't think they get it. They're just trying to throw in so many Easter eggs to appease fans that they're not focused on the actual story. Like, we don't need to see the Dr. Octopus stuff in the background. We don't need... Rhino has no purpose in this film at all. The only reason is to have him set up for Sinister Six. There is absolutely no reason we have him in this movie. On the positive side, Andrew Garfield, Sally Field, Emma Stone, Jamie Foxx, Daniel DeHaan, all of them are great in their roles. I especially love Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone's relationship. It's easy to believe that their relationship because, well, one, they're dating in real life, but this is one of the very few times I actually cared about the romance in a superhero movie. And this is where we get to the spoilers right here. Basically, if you haven't read any Spider-Man comics, you will not have seen this coming, but almost the main Spider-Man fans will know this. This is the tribute to... This is when Gwen Stacy dies. And that's in my opinion, that's the only reason they got Green Goblin, because they wanted to kill off Gwen Stacy. Harry is also dying of the same thing that's causing his father to die. It's genetic. And so he needs a cure, and he thinks that Spider-Man's blood would give him the cure because it's the super spiders basically have healing factors. And he gets some of the venom from the original super spiders, and it changes him into like this goblin-like creature. And he's in the lab, and he just stumbles upon the glider and the suit and the pumpkin bombs, and he takes off, and he goes after Spider-Man, who he finds out is Peter Parker, and he's pissed at Spider-Man because Spider-Man came to his apartment just to tell him that I can't give you joining my blood. Sorry, pal. I'm gonna swing away. For the film's credit, Daniel DeHaan is a creepy Green Goblin. Like, his laugh, like... I'm like, jeez, dude. I mean, it's a lot scarier than how I did it, but it's really freaky. But the problem is, we needed to develop Harry. Instead of just throwing him in there, you should have developed him more. It's the same problem with when they just threw Eddie Brock into Spider-Man 3. We did not develop with the character at all. We didn't really develop with this character. Save Goblin for the third movie if you're gonna do the death of Gwen Stacy. Don't just... And oh yeah, Goblin's only in it for like 5-6 minutes. Like, it's Harry Osborn, he's in it the rest of the movie, but as Goblin, he's only in it for about 6 minutes. And the death is and it isn't accurate. They made references to it, like they're on the bridge at one point, and Gwen Stacy is wearing clothing that's similar to the ones she wore in the actual comic. But this time they changed it to the location is in a clock tower. I think this is a really wasted opportunity. You could have developed Harry's character so much better, and instead of just making him the villain right away. Here's another problem I had. The ending. This should have ended at the funeral. Here is haunted by Gwen's death, just like in the comics, and you see a montage of the seasons passing while he's at the graveyard, and he quits being Spider-Man. Apparently, it says 5 months go by and he's just done being Spider-Man. That's where the movie should have ended. Instead, what happens is the man in the shadows breaks Paul Giamatti out and gives him the Rhino suit, and Rhino runs amok in New York, and Spider-Man decides he watches a recording of Gwen's graduation speech, and that inspires him to go back and be Spider-Man. And the film literally ends with Spider-Man about to fight Rhino. You don't even see the fight with Rhino. But you know how this movie should have ended? It should have ended with the story arc when Spider-Man stops being Spider-Man, when Peter Parker gives it up. I know that's what they did in Spider-Man 2, but that would be a perfect time to do it, in my opinion. They could have gone with the whole him throwing the costume in the trash can thing and just... I think that would have been perfect. But no, we can't. I can understand we need a lot... Spider-Man is a bit aimed more for kids, so you need a little bit of a lighthearted ending. So I kind of understand that. And my audience was eating it up. The guy next to me was literally on the edge of his seat. It's a disappointment. It's the first disappointment of the summer, and we're going to have some disappointments. It's just sad that it's Spider-Man. Hopefully not. It's not Godzilla, but... Yeah, Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I don't want you to be so negative, but it's just not that good. There's no... But it's not a horrible movie, it's just not that good. There's no really any story, just things happen. The new characters aren't developed all that well. The only good things are pretty much the chemistry between Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone. And I actually like and the character designs are pretty cool. But this actually makes me appreciate the Raimi films a bit more, where they don't seem like products that are setting up future films, but they actually look like individual stories, whereas this film is like a big product for a future Sinister Six film. Sony, just give us a good Spider-Man story. A story, not something that's leading up to something. There are my thoughts. On The Amazing Spider-Man 2, again, 2.5 stars out of 5. Thanks, this is O.M.M. Review. This is O.M.M. signing out.